Hi, welcome to today's live. As I figure out how to set my light so it's not too dramatically blue or bright. Just give me a second. Okay, so. Welcome everyone who's watching. This is my weekly mini reading live dedicated to looking at your charts, answering questions. I am a little confused, overwhelmed. Okay, but give me a second. How is Mercury retrograde going for you? Hi, Kate. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how the retrograde is treating you. I just had this funny thing happen today. You can how much money you're making through YouTube, right? And they show you the payment that's coming out. And they showed this morning, and it's still showing as like double what the actual payment is supposed to be. So if this is a really lovely Mercury retrograde, but I feel like for me as a Libra rising, it might be something where like even if they overpay me, I will then have to pay them back because that's a very typical retrograde. Juju DNC22 says, good morning from Sydney. Hi, what time is it there for you? You're saying retrograde has forced me into hermit mode. I get it. For me, it's like, again, as a Libra rising, it's happening in my third house. And as far as like right now, it's just creating so much activity. There's just so many things going on. Bavana. Oh, it's 9:03 in Australia. That's like a pretty good time. I thought it would be more. I thought it would be later, but I guess it's a pretty good conversion. Do you guys change clocks in Australia? Or do you pretty much stick to the same sort of clock? I know they've abandoned it in a lot of places. We just switched in the US on November 2nd. So, welcome everyone. Tell me where you're watching from. Share your retrograde stories. There's been so many confusing things happening, I think. If you'd like a reading, the purpose of this is to offer donation-based readings. Suggested amount is 25, but pay what you feel comfortable with. You can pay less, you can pay more based on your financial situation. I am also doing a Black Friday sale. Today is the first day. You can save 20% off of all of my products, all of candles, oils, and planners, notebooks on my website with the code EARLY BF, early Black Friday, all lowercase, early BF20. So check it out. Katio says, hey, Juju neighbor, Kiwi here, curious, is that 12th house Mercury retro? Juju says, yes, in Sydney we have daylight savings. Yeah, that's the appropriate term. KTO says you don't have any retro stories. Well, it just started yesterday. Give it some time. What house is it happening for you, KTO? Unless I'm supposed to say your name as Kate Yo. Kate Yo. Bhavana, I am good. How are you? Hi, Molly from Oregon. What is the weather like in Oregon? We had the prettiest weekend ever. And now it's crazy cold and windy and things like that. Kate will do. Okay. I assume YO is maybe your initials, right? For something else. Bhavana says tired, might sleep in a bit. You should do that. How cold is it? I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 8 degrees, but it's windy, so it feels even colder. What is it right now? So anyone who would like a reading, I ask for a donation. Suggested amount is 25. There are payment links in the description of the video and in the pinned comment. Once you send the donation through those links, please use those links over YouTube, just because it goes through a lot more layers if it goes through YouTube. Once you send the donation, I will need your date, time, place of birth, and a question. Questions can be really wide ranged. You can ask about your love life, your career, money, future. A lot of different options and possibilities are there. And yeah, if you're just joining, tell us where you're watching from. So yeah, it's 7 degrees right now, Bavana, but like cold and like gross. Molly says it's great today, but the sun was out yesterday. YouTube. Oh, Kate says YouTube gave me an automatic handle. Makes sense. Molly says the leaves are really pretty though. Yeah, here as well. Juju DNC saying health question mark. Yeah, you can ask about health as well. Um, autumn is beautiful. Indeed. I feel like today I noticed some new trees that were still staying green, but they're starting to yellow from the top. So it almost looks like a yellow liquid is being poured over them. So today the tops of those trees turned yellow. And so we do have Mercury retrograde, right? Between the 9th and the 29th of this month. We also have Mercury conjoining Mars this week, which is a rather irritating, combative energy. There may be more of a danger of saying things that are hurtful to other people, of being kind of, reactive and subjective about a lot of things. Kate says, can you please repeat how to put chart request in? So there are payment links because these are donation based, and links, there's PayPal, there's Venmo, and there is Cash App. And I ask that you guys use those links. So after you submit a donation, you can either put your information in the chat, or you can email it to me if you want it to be private. You can send an email to Anastasia astrology at gmail.com and specify, like, right at the front of the email, say that you want it to be private. And you can put your date, time, place of birth in there and ask a question this way. Bhavana, are you talking about my smile being beautiful? I don't know how. I don't know how that could be, but I'm glad. I'm glad that that's the case. Yeah, there's been things. Life is fun. It's always full of like interesting things. I have very French background right now. I have red, white, and blue. Isn't that what French flag looks like? Or is it a different order of colors? French flag. It's blue, white, and red. Kind of. And then more red and stripes. Zebra with stripes. So if anybody else has any Mercury retrograde stories to report, do share. I think I found it interesting. I'm looking at like sports astrology, and yesterday a team that nobody expected. If you're following American football, yesterday Dolphins beat Buffalo Bills. And Buffalo Bills are so much stronger generally than the Dolphins, so much more consistent. But Dolphins were created when Mercury was retrograde. And yesterday Mercury turned retrograde. And so that's like an interesting, it's like a working theory, but it's interesting to see whether athletes or sports team that have Mercury retrograde natally can do much, much better and surprise us during the retrograde period. So a fun observation. And I'm going to remind you guys again that I am doing a Black Friday sale. 1 week only, you can save 20% off of all products, candles, oils, planners, notebooks with a code lowercase single word early BF20. So any volunteers? I still have people who submitted donations in the past. So if any of you are those people, if you're like, Anastasia, I sent you a donation 2 weeks ago, but I couldn't attend it live, do let me know, because I keep track of people that submitted donations but never really showed up. So I will happily honor that. But yeah, as of right now, the list is open. I'm probably going to be live for an hour and a half, maybe. We'll see how it goes. No pressure, of course. If you don't feel like getting a reading, you can just hang out. We can just chat. Juju says payment has been made. Where do I send you my question? So if you are okay with it being public, your information and your question, just put it in the chat. If you want it to be private, email me at Anastasia does astrology at gmail.com. So same as my name, just there are periods between words. And you can put your information there or put all of your things there. Oh, okay. Okay. I see things. Things are happening. So I see JC. Is JC here? And is it okay to refer to you as JC? I guess I'm doing it already, so forgive me if it's not okay. Okay. So I got 2 people. Let me just take a note. So yes, send me your information either in the chat or send it through my email, depending on how private you want to keep it. And don't forget that my sale is live. Okay. So I have JC and I have Susan. And I'm going to take a look at what you guys are saying in a second. Okay. I think maybe my messages got slowed down, or maybe you guys are sending your questions via email. I am checking it, not seeing anything. But wait, I think one of you. Okay, JC, I see your information, but I don't see the time of birth. So ideally, I would need your date, time, and place of birth, so I can be more precise with my assessment, because time of birth actually determines where your ascendant falls and how the rest of your houses play out. So if we're talking about health, that will be necessary. Okay, so I don't see any emails from you, and my comments are not really updating. Can you guys say something so I can make sure that we are live and you can see me in real time? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay. Thank you, Bhavana. Okay, so I have JC and Susan. Do please speak up if you're here. Thank you, Dark Phoenix. Molly saying, I just made a request. Do you mean you made a request via Venmo? Okay, I see Jeff. So it's JC, Susan, and Jeff right now. I'm still waiting on your questions, so please tell me what they are. Bhavana, how has your sleep been? Okay, Molly is Jeff. Jeff is Molly. Got it. Okay, so Jeff for Molly. Okay, Susan, I see you writing your email. Okay. Molly, and I have okay, so Molly, if you wanna go first, if you want to share your information, oh, okay, so I think I have your information, right? You sent it, it's in the PayPal. Um, do you want Molly, do you want your information to be private, or is it okay if I share it? You're saying just not my age? What does that mean? Did you not put your age? We're having a very Mercury retrograde start to this live. Bhavana, you're saying your sleep is not so good. Hopefully, it will get better soon. How is my sleep? It's okay. It's been better. It's like I feel like I'm having way too many dreams, which means I'm not sleeping super restfully because I think you see dreams in the early stages of your dreams, of your sleep. Okay, Molly. So there is information in the PayPal payment. Is it accurate? Should I use that for you? And then second question, is it do you want it to be hidden? Or do you want it to be okay, your information is fine. And is it okay to show it, Molly? Hi, Monica. Good to see you. Always. Oh, okay. Okay. So Molly says it's okay to show, but not the year. So I guess I'm not gonna show your information. So I can just pull your chart up on my own. So, okay, so right now I have JC, Susan, Jeff, as in Molly, and Monica. So, starting with Molly, just because we've been talking, because all of you guys, your payments, sort of your donations came through at about the same time. So we're gonna look at them this way. Okay, Molly, sorry. When you were saying go ahead, it would be fine, as in I'm just sorry. I'm sorry. There's like so many messages coming through and it's confusing. It would be could you say the full thing? What is fine? To show your information or to hide your chart? Because I'm like reading other people's messages and trying to take notes of what's going on. So sometimes I ask a question, but then I forget what the question was. So please help me out. But okay, you can type. I'm just going to put your information in the meantime. And Monica, sorry to hear about the Scorpio guy. I think the retrograde can definitely suggest that things are a little bit odd presently. Okay, thank you, Molly. Now we have 5 people chiming in. We're like, "What does Molly want?" Molly just told us what she wants. Woohoo, we figured it out. Thank you, Molly. Yes, and Susan, I see your email as well. Thank you so much for that. Um, okay, so JC, if you're here, you asked not to say your name, so I'm calling you by JC. Susan, I have the email from Molly. I have the information from Monica is here. So if there's other people, let us know. But I think okay. So Molly, your question was, what is up with all these oppositions? Which one is more difficult? Do you mean natal oppositions, Molly, or do you mean oppositions that are happening in the sky, or probably natal ones, right? Because I do see that you have a decent amount of oppositions. But yeah, natal or transit? Natal. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Molly. Okay, so let us look at your chart. And actually, I think I can definitely just like hide your birthday information because we're talking about natal stuff. So I know it's a lot of back and forward, but since you did want to hide some of the things, we can definitely do that. Let's see. Because this is a pretty easy thing. If we were looking at the transits, then it would be a bit more complicated. Okay, so I got Taurus, Sun, Capricorn, Moon, Capricorn rising for you. Does this look correct? Does this look familiar? So Bhavana is actually studying with me. Bhavana, if you have any thoughts on the oppositions, care to share with us. But okay, so if we're looking at your chart, it does look like you have these oppositions between it's kind of showing up as these three planets, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, all opposite Mars. I would off the bat say that don't look at Moon opposite Mars or Saturn opposite Mars. I mean, it will be a thing to some extent, but in order for two planets to be opposite one another, they need to be in the opposing signs. And Capricorn is not opposite Leo, Capricorn is opposite Cancer. So, what this means is Mars did oppose Saturn probably like a day before you were born, but then it shifted into Leo. So this opposition is separating. The moon is getting ready to conjoin Saturn and oppose Mars. So it's also like it's not really seeing Mars yet. So I wouldn't look at Moon Saturn in opposition to Mars. I'd say this is like less relevant. But Saturn Mars would still potentially have like an effect in your life, as in there may be, you're maybe someone who is not necessarily just like things, like you may be someone who is reserved at times or more thoughtful about things. What I would consider an actual opposition here is this Mars Jupiter opposition, because Mars is in Leo, Jupiter is in Aquarius, and these two are actually opposite one another. So there is an opposition between Mars and Jupiter. And what Mars and Jupiter in opposition, this it's so interesting because you have this Mars that has just opposed Saturn like a day before you were born, approximately. So it's almost like Mars had to deal with rejection and some kind of slowdown and restriction. And then it goes on, and the next aspect it's going to make is an opposition to Jupiter. And it's almost like there is some kind of like history in your life, or like the trajectory in your life that goes from dealing with rejection, obstacles, delays, and challenges, which I can also see with Saturn and Moon in your first house, right? That's like kind of having to grow up too soon, having to deal with some serious like Saturnian challenges. But then there's a Jupiter there's a Jupiter energy, so it's almost like an ability to grow from it and learn from it, and maybe like reach some kind of ability to empower yourself and maybe even other people, because Jupiter is in your second house and it like reads as wisdom when it comes to self growth and self confidence and self understanding. So it's like an interesting sequence here, right? Like if you think of Mars having just entered Leo, having just opposed Saturn and then entered Leo, it's almost like there is a lesson in using your voice in like your courage in a proper way, and not being too stuck with the opposition to Saturn, and not being too sort of expansive and overdoing it with the opposition to Jupiter. So it's like how do you get your anger, your desires, your courage right without being too afraid to stand up for yourself and without being too forceful at times. So I wonder if this resonates. And um, the other opposition, well, there's the Sun Neptune one, or yeah, Sun Neptune one, but it's also separating, so it's kind of losing strength. Sun Neptune opposition can suggest that you're a dreamer, but sometimes your dreams maybe lead you astray. There may be some tension between personal desires and some kind of maybe challenges in friendships, maybe friends that are like, I don't know, Neptune in the 11th can suggest poor boundaries around friendships. And so sometimes you kind of have to be careful here. Um, I guess I'd say, like, watch out that your friends don't let your friends lead you to join a cult. Maybe you're gonna start a cult. I don't know. Um, Bhavan is saying I'm interested in the Pluto opposition to Chiron. So Pluto opposition to Chiron is gonna be like, it's gonna be, um, it's like a generational aspect because Chiron moves slowly and Pluto moves even slower. So it's an interesting one, but it's something that you'll see in the charts of people born around the same time. So, oh, we have Susan saying, just realize that you have Mars opposing your Saturn too. Don't hate Saturn. I have Mars square Saturn like very, very closely. So I'm a Mars Saturn person as well. It tends to Mars Saturn tends to beat you into shape. It tends to make you the more resilient, the more persevering. It's a difficult aspect for sure, but it has the most potential for like to teach you how to overcome obstacles. And a lot of times when Mars Saturn come together by transit, you can actually like learn and grow a lot. But yeah, Bhavana, like, this aspect you're mentioning, Pluto Chiron opposition, it's not, it's like, it's a worthy aspect to talk about. I'm just saying it's going to be something that's like outer sort of energies getting involved together is less, I guess, it's less dramatic than outer planets, sorry, than inner planets. But Pluto Chiron opposition also reads to me as like, do you stay in your wounded energy, Molly, or do you embrace your power, right? Do you stay with your South Node in Pisces, which maybe is about, again, sort of self sacrifice and being lost for one reason or another and not having your sense of like self and identity? Or do you step into your North Node in Virgo and Pluto and almost like become a healer, I think? So that's my quick take on your oppositions. If you want a full reading, book one on my website, and don't forget to take advantage of my sale. I would really recommend, Molly, for you, Venus in Taurus candle or Jupiter in Taurus oil or candle, because you have Venus in Aries, and this could be like a very feisty Venus in relationships. So if you ever wanted to chill her out and create more like ease, peace, abundance, highly recommend my Venus and Taurus. And everything is 20% off with the code EARLYBF20. Molly says it's been a seesaw. Yeah, so it's going to keep pulling you in different directions until you figure out how to get it to balance, how to get it to be more stable, right? So I hope it helps. Susan says, I keep telling Saturn to teach me by gentle means rather than beating it into me so far. Nada. I've noticed there was a year when we had a bunch of Mars Saturn aspects. And like I expected them to be difficult, but because I have Mars Saturn natally, one of them actually became like really sort of good and rewarding. You're welcome, Molly. Thank you. Okay, so okay. So next we have Susan is here, so we can do Susan next. And I still have JC, who asked not to share the name, so I'm calling her JC. Okay, so Molly is done. Susan is next. Susan, did you want your information to be private? I don't know if you said that. I don't think I see it. Susan says, so you were well prepped. I was. It was actually, yeah, like it was like I think it was 2 years ago, and it was YouTube telling me that some of my products, like, they kept on blocking my products, and I kept on fighting it, and at some point they just decided that it's okay. I guess I fought them enough, and I was kind of at a break, at like a stopping point or resting point, and they were just like, "Okay, fine. We'll show your products. It's okay." Okay, Susan wants her information to be private. Okay. So let's see. For anyone who's joining, I am doing donation based readings. Suggested amount is 25. I do ask that you please use the payment links provided in the description and in the pinned comment instead of YouTube payment. And you can send the donation, and then you can ask a question and share your information either publicly in the comments, or you can share it privately in the email Anastasia period does period astrology at gmail.com, and mention that you'd like your information to be kept private. Okay, so just putting your information, Susan. So your question is, what is going on with my knees since July 5th of 2025? When will it stop, or what or anything can I do to help stop the pain? Been told I need knee replacement, but I'm not keen at all for such an invasive procedure. I'm literally housebound and haven't left the house since middle of July. That sounds very hard, Susan. I'm sorry you're dealing with it. Persistence of Saturn. Yeah, gotta keep chugging along. It's very, very Saturn-like. Okay. So let's see. I may not share your chart or just share your natal chart, but because the moment I add transits to it, for some reason, it doesn't want to hide the information, but let's see. Hi, Super Tika 22 from Slovenia. Susan says, I'd love to know how much longer this health issue is going to persist and what proactive part I can play. Okay. So is this correct for you, Susan, with Gemini, Sun, Libra, Moon? So right now I still have JC on the list and Monica, including Susan. If you'd like a reading, I ask for a donation. Suggested amount is 25. So you can send the donation through the payment links in the description or pinned comment. Please use those links instead of YouTube payment, because those are more direct and they're not getting sort of taken through YouTube rules and all of those things. Okay. So Susan, a question for you. What was your health like in 2006, 2007? Because we do have South Node currently in your first house of health, physical body, and it went into your first house in January this year, and it's gonna stay there until July 2026. So it might be affecting you a lot right now. Virgo risings are going through it was fine-ish. Okay. What about 88, 1988, 89, if you can, if that was at all noticeable or anything important was happening? So that is happening, and then Saturn is also okay, I'm gonna stop sharing because I wanna look at transits, and I don't wanna accidentally reveal your information. But there's also Saturn making aspects to your natal ascendant and to your IC and MC. So your angles in your chart are all in late mutable, and Saturn has been hanging out next to them for a while. So you're saying since July? And also your Mars is in late Leo. Uranus has been aspecting your Mars a bunch. So there's been a lot of outer planets action. Yeah, Saturn first hit your angles in April, late April, May, and then it was again late September, October, and then the final round of Saturn aspects is January, early February. And then Uranus squared your Mars in June. And there was a Uranus square in August, and another square in September, and then another square of Mars in November. And if Mars has to do with our activity, right, and how mobile we can be, then I think you can think of like Uranus as bringing disruptions and maybe affecting things and affecting mobility, and you are um okay, so you are currently in the third house year, which means your Mars is your time lord for this year of your life. When you turned 62, you went into your third house year. And so that suggests that Mars is your time lord. So whatever is happening to Mars is extra important. And so I think the fact that Uranus is aspecting your Mars and kind of making not so pleasant aspects to it is potentially what maybe is the reason for the challenges. And thank you. Thank you for calling me astrology wizard. Go go pogo. Always a pleasure to hear sweet compliments from you. Okay. So Saturn is going to stop aspecting your angles in late January. That's good. Uranus is not quite done with you. Uranus still has a little bit more oomph in him. And so until your next birthday, I think we really want to see what's happening to Mars. So the final aspect, the final square to Mars is going to happen in April. So this might still be something that you're dealing with until April. And yeah, like there's definitely Mars is getting beat up by Uranus. I wonder though, I mean, you're saying you don't want to go through the invasive procedure, and maybe they're with South Node in your first house. Maybe they're like strengthening through more like less invasive things, through yoga or through some other kind of like spiritual meditative. Yoga could be a really good thing to do. And maybe also sometimes you can work with the planet in a more constructive way. Like I always talk in my readings, I talk often about like remediation and working with more difficult placements. And you are, I think, being born with Mars in the 12th house can suggest that sometimes there is like you can be someone who tries not to fight and maybe struggles with anger, and maybe when you were younger you weren't fully able to express anger and frustration, and so on some level this can also suggest that there's been some like buildup of maybe frustrating energy that you didn't express, that showed up through some physical pain, and you're saying yep, doing all of that. So I would suggest doing, yeah, like yoga, maybe swimming, maybe things that are more subtle. And I would potentially suggest working on your Mars. So the best way to work on Mars is through like martial arts and maybe some kind of tai chi, whatever you can do to bring awareness to Mars. Um I would also recommend like a Mars exalted Mars candle I have, and like if you ever wanted to book a full-size reading, we can talk more about the rituals that you can do. But I think, yeah, I think like leaning more into spiritual practices, doing more gentle things. And like, yeah, I'm not quite sure if surgery is if surgery is a good idea. I feel like you do have a strong Saturn in your sixth house of health, and the south node is affecting your first house. So maybe there is a way to hold off on the surgery and see if you can figure out like other ways, spiritual ways to work with this. Because Uranus is going to stop aspecting your Mars, but you may need to wait a little bit until Uranus kind of moves on finally, which will be next April. So try doing all these other things. Check out my Exalted Mars candle or oil. It's on sale, 20% off until next Monday, part of Black Friday sale with the code earlybf20, one word, lowercase. That could be that could be good. Yeah, April is when you're getting the final aspect of it. And that's also when Uranus finally leaves Taurus. And that's when it will stop aspecting your natal Mars. Sadly, there's still a few rounds, at least one more round of Uranus. I don't know if it won't happen again for you because there are a bunch of things to account for, and I just think in April when it leaves, you may notice a change. And if you try, I would say try these other methods first and like maybe commit to them and try to figure out how you can work with Mars in more spiritual ways and maybe express sort of a more like find a way to express your anger in healthy outlets, and then see if that doesn't help, then maybe surgery could be an option. But I feel like you can try, if you don't think surgery is a good idea, definitely don't do it until April, because it might get better. I just feel like, health questions are a little bit more difficult and you need to consider a lot of things, and like I can't make a promise that it's never going to happen again, because that's just sadly not how the world works. It happens again in April. So there is going to be April 7th is exact, but it's usually active a month before, a month after. And it's actually happening right now. So June 18th is the first hit, and that would be again a month before, a month after. And then November 30th, a month before, a month after. And then April 7th, a month before, a month after. And then Uranus is out of Taurus on April 25th. So, yeah, I'd say, same thing I said, try to find ways to deal with it in other sort of spiritual methods, the ways I mentioned, and hold off on the surgery, especially if your like gut feelings telling you don't do it. Then don't rush into it, because you can probably always do it. It's not something that you kind of have to do right now, right? Like, and if doctors are forcing you, sometimes it's like worth getting a second opinion. Okay, Susan, I hope this was helpful. Is JC here? Did JC join us? And if not, Monica can be next. And don't forget that I am doing an early Black Friday sale between this Monday, November 10th and November 17th. You can save 20% on my planner, my notebooks, my candles, my oils with the coupon code EARLYBF, lowercase. Sorry, it's early BF20. So for like early Black Friday 20. Okay, Monica is here. And you're welcome, Susan. I hope it gets better. It sounds like a really difficult place to be in. All I can say is when South Node was in my first house in 2024, I was dealing with health issues as well. So that tends to happen sometimes. So sometimes it is better to go through more like spiritual ways. Like I went and got my yoga teacher training to help with back pain and some other things. I didn't rush into doing more extreme methods, and everything ended up working out. Okay, Monica. If you guys are watching and you'd like to jump on my list, I currently have 2 people. In order to get on the list, I do ask for a donation. Suggested amount is 25. There is a payment link in the description and in the pinned comment. And after that, you can share your information either through the chat box, or you can email me at anastasia.astrology@gmail.com and ask me to keep your information private. Okay, Monica, I have your info. I think I should. I don't know if I saved it, but it's definitely somewhere. um, I think I don't know. Well, I don't have it in my client database because we didn't really do a reading yet, but I do have it here, I think. There you are. And Monica, you don't mind me sharing your chart, right? Because I think we've done this before. Okay. Monica says you're good at sharing it. And what is the question? Is it connected to you're saying Scorpio disappeared? Just rolling my wrists over here. And I am curious, where did JC go? Because she did send her payment and a question, but I didn't have her time of birth in it, so I can't even do her reading without her being here. Gogo Pogo says Venus, the planet of love in the deep waters of Scorpio. Indeed. Monica says, yeah, the love life weirdness for now till the end of the year, since Mercury retrograde and shadow will probably extend that long. Yeah, definitely into December, into like mid-December. Okay, so Venus came out of Libra and entered your first house on November 6th. Was it 6th or 7th or 8th? When did Venus go into Scorpio? The 6th. So between the 6th and the 30th, she's in Scorpio in your first house. which is pretty good because Venus in the first house tends to boost your sex appeal, right? Think of Sydney Sweeney with her Venus and Scorpio, Scorpio rising, and she's definitely, I feel like, all sex appeal. But but like Venus in the first house definitely boosts your charm, and especially when she's a Scorpio. And Scorpio, it's this sort of like sweltering, sexy type of charm. She is, of course, in the sign of her detriment. So there might be a lot of like things that are being unsaid and stalking behavior and fears that are not being expressed and like game playing and trying to keep like cool while in reality you care a lot potentially. But you're saying, okay, the guy's birthday was on the 1st, and that's the last time you heard from him. Didn't you say last time that he was going through something because Venus was in the 12th and Venus rules relationships in your chart? And so maybe that was him going through a difficult time. And now the signifier of the relationship house in your chart is in its detriment. So it can also suggest that he's going through some kind of more complicated situation. And then, okay, so you are 45, you're ruled by the sun. Sun is in the house of relationships. So sun is your time lord this year. So definitely a lot of focus on relationships with Chiron. There's also some suggestion of healing and needing maybe to be more vulnerable and more open and honest about your wounds and insecurities. And Uranus is back in Taurus, like you said. So Uranus is here until April 25th. So it's like your final kind of opportunity to cleanse away and wash away all of the maybe like Uranus wants to shake things up, but in Taurus it wants to shake things up to create more stability. So what does shaking things up look like for you? Do you like have you been honest with the guy? Have you like told him that, maybe mentioning how you feel could be a new way of doing things? How do you how do you approach this behavior from him? Because you're saying he's going through things, right? You're like, I'm ready to throw in the love relationship towel until Uranus goes into Gemini. But Uranus and Taurus is here to offer some opportunities, right? It's not a sign that you need to completely like give up on things. You're saying you've tried reaching out, but nothing. Okay. So maybe stop reaching out, right? If he's behaving this way, like just be Uranian about it. Be like, I'm gonna do my thing, Uranus in the seventh, right? Like I feel like if he's showing you very clearly that he's not kind of reciprocating presently for whatever reason, then maybe, especially with like the retrograde, like you said, it's going back from your second house of money, but also self-worth back into your first house of self and identity. And so it's potentially asking a lot of these deep questions. And maybe because it's retrograde, it's also not the best time for clear communication. So what is his chart like besides being Scorpio? Yeah, so Mercury is gonna oppose Uranus in the in your house of relationships on November 18th, 19th. There's a new moon on top of your natal Uranus. There's a lot of questions around like independence and figuring out what you want. And then I think perhaps first figuring it out, and then after Mercury goes direct on the 29th, potentially even communicating the things that you want in a more like straightforward way, because Mercury goes almost all the way back to your moon, not quite, but it like starts with Uranus, conjoins your Uranus, and then comes close to your moon. Oh. Hi, Alicia. Okay, so for people who are watching, by the way, my list is pretty open. I have one person. Oh, oh, JC. Are you JC? Okay. I see, JC. So you sent me your time. Could you please send it again? I can't find this email. I may have gotten it may have disappeared, whether for my or not my reason. Okay, so right now I have Monica and JC, I think. Or maybe not. How this is confusing. But no, no, there you are. Yes. Okay. Yeah, JC, please just send me your birth time again, which is what I'm missing, right? I have date, I have place. I do not have the time. Okay. So yes, Monica, sorry. Um You're saying he also updated his dating profile. So yeah, it's done. I found that out around the time he ghosted me. He's born November 1st, 77. Scorpio Sun, Cancer Moon, Scorpio Mercury. Yeah. Why can't people just communicate? Like why is it so hard to be direct? Instead he ghosts you and then he updates his dating profile? Like is it really so hard to be like, I don't know. I don't get it. But I feel like you said, yeah, maybe until the end of the year, maybe it's a little bit more about you right now and less about them. And like if he disappeared, then that's probably for the better. Who needs a person who can't even communicate when they are not when like okay, he's been going through a difficult time, but he can communicate with you. You were saying you were shutting your dating profile down and you happened upon it. I mean, 45 is potentially a good year for dating in your case because it's ruled by the sun in the house of relationships, but maybe the retrogrades and Uranus back in the seventh, maybe it's a little bit of a. I think November definitely has to it a bit more quiet, introspective energy. We have Jupiter ready to station retrograde. Saturn is finishing up its retrograde through your fifth house. It's going to go direct on the 27th. Mercury is going to go direct on the 29th. So take it, make it more about like personal things until then. And look at it as like Uranus maybe is coming back into your seventh house to show you who is not long-term potential. So it's like it's shaking things up, but it's shaking things up in the long run because I think with good intentions, because in the future you're going to look back and you will be like, well, I felt a connection with this person, but he wasn't the right one for me because he didn't like approach things with directness. You're saying I tried getting him to open up, but he always shut me down when I tried asking questions and getting him to open up more. Yeah, and you got 3 planets in Scorpio. So if he doesn't open up to you, who is he ever going to open up to? Like, seriously. Yeah, it's shaking people out of your life indeed. Well, I hope this helped. Okay. I have figured out who JC is. Okay, you said not to mention your name. Is it okay to share your information without your name, or do you want your information private? JC. Okay, I'm going to start putting your information in. If you want to reply via email, that's okay too. But for now, I am just going to. You're welcome, Monica. Gotta keep plugging along. You only need one sane, kind, good person, right? Like just do your thing. Focus on you and let them show you that they deserve your thing. Don't give out your thing too easily, Monica. You deserve better. I don't know if I'm making sense, but basically, don't let them don't let them behave in these weird ways. I feel like sometimes men really just test our boundaries left and right. They're like, "What if I did this? What if I did that? Will she take it? Will she be okay with it?" And it's your job to be like, "Nope, you're not allowed to do these kinds of things." Okay. So, so JC, I guess. Okay. So, but the question was, what does the future look like for me? Love, uh, career. The question was about farming endeavor. Is this for me? You're also saying I would want a personal reading later on. Do you give discounts as well? So I don't currently give out discounts on the readings. I am doing a sale on the products. So for those interested in my planner and my candles, you can save 20% with the coupon code EARLYBF20, one word lowercase, between November 10th and 17th. Definitely check it out. But I mean, I might do a sale of sorts in the future, but right now I do not really plan on doing that because I think, I've adjusted my prices recently. I went up because I haven't gotten them up in a while, and comparative to like a lot of other astrologers, my prices are definitely very competitive. Some of them, some people charge like significantly more than what I charge. So, okay. Okay, JC, I am going to answer your question. I'm not sure why I can't see you in the chat because you're in the email, you said that you're here. So it's a little bit confusing. I guess I won't be able to like kind of get any feedback from you, but I can still answer it. And I'm not going to share your information because I didn't hear from you about that. So, okay. And for people who want to jump on my list, it is currently open after JC. I will need a donation. Suggested amount is 25. Please use the links provided in the description or in the pinned comment. And after that, you can send me your information and your question. Okay. So, again, to repeat this for myself, JC's question was, what does the future hold in terms of love and farming endeavor? Let's see. Let us see. Okay. So, JC, what I have for you is a Cancer Sun, Leo Moon, Aries rising. I hope this is correct since I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of delay, so I can't really see your time. Okay. Okay. So, Cancer Sun, Leo Moon, Aries rising. So, you're asking about love, whether there is anything that I can see. Let me check this out real quick. So, you are 51, 48, 49, 50, 51. So 51 is the year of the fourth house. The ruler of the fourth is the moon in your house of romance, pleasure. And we're also going to start having eclipses in your house of romance and pleasure next year. I believe the first one is in August. Let me check my beautiful planner, which is currently 20% off. If you want one so that you can check when things are happening, highly, highly recommend. But I think the first eclipse in your fifth house of romance is on August 12th. So that might suggest that 2026 could be significant in terms of relationships, especially because if right now you're in the fourth house, so the focus is still kind of on family and yeah, like the focus is on home and family, but maybe through the lens of romance and dating people that come from the same hometown as you or somehow connected to your childhood. And it's interesting because you mentioned farming, right? And if we're thinking of you being in the year that's connected to land and property, I think farming is very much on the agenda. And even, looking at your chart, you have midheaven, which is the angle of career ruled by Saturn in the fourth house. So your professional life is very much connected to land and property and family business. And then it's Saturn in Cancer, which can be a little bit difficult. I have a candle for that, of course, Saturn in Aquarius. Those are almost sold out, but that could be like a really good choice for your professional life to boost professional chances in general. Um, yeah, I think working with the land, doing work that is like nurturing and caring and protective is really good for you. I think this year and the next year can be significant romantically, especially around August with that eclipse in Leo. And generally, you have um generally the ruler of your chart is Mars in Leo. It's in the fifth house of romance, creativity, and pleasure. So there is a strong focus on being playful and artistic and like expressing your creative energy through love, through parenthood. I wonder if you have kids, and if being a parent is a big part of who you are. And then the ruler of your seventh house of relationships is Venus and Taurus. This is a really beautiful, strong ruler. So I think, she can definitely provide as like a landlord of your house of relationships. It can suggest like strong, successful, financially, like almost, yeah, like wealthy partners potentially, or people who come into your life and like become your business partners and somehow like benefit through them. So that is I think quite fascinating that you have a strong ruler of the house of relationships. Where things are a bit more difficult is I think having Uranus in the seventh and having Pluto in the seventh. And Pluto might suggest that you maybe attract people that are a little bit dark and intense and like maybe on the positive, very passionate, on the negative, controlling and dramatic and obsessive, vindictive. So you have to be aware of that and you have to try and choose people where you can share power with them and you can be honest and you can be more like passionate together instead of dramatic together. And Uranus can bring a lot of surprising twists and turns and like turnarounds in relationships. So it can be something to watch out for in regards to love. And I think with Pluto, the suggestion is you need to share power in relationships and choose to be vulnerable instead of trying to act nonchalant and try to hold on to some kind of power or like illusion being in control. And Uranus is also encouraging you to have unorthodox, unusual kinds of relationships that fit you and work best for you. And it's, I think, a sign of not forgetting that you are unique in your own way and you don't need to conform to expectations of others. And having relationships that are different, maybe like unorthodox and long distance or something about them is more unique, is I think what suits your chart really, really well. So that's what I have for you, JC. I hope this resonates. Sadly, you can't really jump on the chat and respond in real life, in real time clock. And yeah, Mercury's retrograde. Hi, Indica Ocean. So I'm done with the people on my list. If other people would like to jump on, I can still take a few. I am doing donation-based readings. Suggested amount is 25. I do ask that you pay by using my links in the description and in the pinned comment. And after you send the donation, I will need your date, time, and place of birth and your question. And you can either share that publicly in the chat, or if you want it to be private, please email me at Anastasia astrology at gmail.com. So the list is open. Let me know. And if we don't have any other volunteers, I guess I'll wrap it up for the day and go take a nap. I mean, it's late. So at this point, it's gonna be proper evening sleep. And also don't forget that I am doing a sale right now, 20% off all of my products. Indica Ocean says your Virgo Sun, Pisces Moon, and Sag rising here. Interesting. A strong focus on both career and home family in your chart. And you're a full moon. Full moon people tend to have full lives. Lots of unique things happening to them. So, how are you doing, Indica Ocean, in terms of Mercury retrograde? And do let me know. This is sort of last call for readings. Any people who want to ask questions, you can ask about anything. You can ask about your love life, about your career, your money, health. You can ask about the future, what's coming up for you next year, professionally, or things like that. I do ask that you limit it to one question, ideally. Oh, there's JC. I feel like there's a huge delay, JC. So if you're only now seeing me doing your reading, I finished it. It's done. Um Indica Ocean says there's been some stirrups for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think for many of us, and the fact that Mercury is also conjoining Mars this week, there is very much not only confusing energy, but like the energy that just wants to go for things anyways. I'm feeling it for sure. I'm like, it's not working, but how about we do it this way? Um, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I am getting messages from JC with a really big delay. All of the answers are only now coming through. So I do have space on my list. The way to send a payment is by using the link in the description or in the bio. Okay, I see you, Indy. Thank you so much. So if you want to share your information publicly, just drop it in the chat. If you want it to be private, please send it to my email, Anastasia astrology at gmail.com. And look at your cute picture. I'm just being my Libra Mercury self, being like, oh, look at all these cute things around me. Life is life is fun sometimes when it's not confusing because Mercury is retrograde. Okay, Indy, I am adding you to my list. Thank you for the donation. And yes, please let me know in terms of your question and the information. And right now, Indy is the only person on the list. So if other people want to join the list before I wrap up for the evening, you sure can. Okay. So putting your information in, and yeah, let me know your question as well, Indy. Hi, Forever XOXOKZ. Okay, and I see it. Virgo, Sun, Pisces, Moon, Sag rising. Indeed. There it is. Look at your beautiful Jupiter in Pisces. We like Jupiter in Pisces here. Let me know your question as well. Okay, so Indy, I have your chart pulled up, so just waiting for your question. Sometimes I know there are delays with, like, you may have typed it, but because I clicked away to a different tab, sometimes it slows us down. So I'm waiting for your question. And Mercury is retrograding in your first house too, so it's a very personal Mercury retrograde for you. Okay, so still waiting. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely lagging. Okay, you're asking about your year. Let me stop sharing for a second and put transits on this chart. So we're looking at the transits. And for people interested in a reading, these are donation based. I do ask you kind use the link in the description or link in bio to send the donation. Suggested amount is 25. And then once you do, you can share your information either privately at Anastasia period does period astrology at gmail.com, or you can share it in the chat and I will answer your question. You can ask questions about anything and everything. Okay, Indy. So sorry if it's lagging. Hopefully, it will catch on eventually. So, what's interesting is a couple of things. You're going through your nodal opposition right now. You were born with South Node in Pisces, conjunct your moon, and your North Node in Virgo. So, your soul is on a journey away from being lost in other people, being sort of like escaping into other people. Pisces energy can be really creative, but it can sometimes struggle with focus and can sometimes like do sort of lean too heavily into not being grounded, like sort of floating away. And there could be self-sacrificial tendencies, maybe even like focus. I think there is something to be said about like your family as being both a foundation or a base for you, but maybe also something that is holding you back. Something about your family, maybe there is, maybe they're a big source of growth for you, but even through being so good, they can hold you back from becoming who you want to be. And with your North Node in Virgo in the 10th house, it's very much about like, I think, learning to have structure and learning, like, kind of focusing on building a career for yourself. However, every 19 years or so, these energies end up flipping. And this usually, like, definitely tends to happen very close to your Saturn return. So your Saturn return is not for a while, it's not until 2028. But I think right now you're actually having to disengage from some professional pursuits and go back to your origins and reconnect with your family and reconnect with what comfort and security is for you. So I think the next year can be very much focused on home, family, building foundations, maybe even spending more time in the privacy of the home, or like doing some kind of healing shadow work perhaps. And so that's a big focus. I think professionally, you're maybe rethinking, releasing, letting go of the certain things that you've been committing to and working on. And I think there is a lot more focus on like spiritual and home and family, even though generally in your lifetime you're doing the opposite, right? So there's a bit of like rebalancing that needs to happen. And some of it is also to me shown by Mercury currently being retrograde. So it's retrograding over your ascendant and your Pluto. So a lot of questioning of like who you are, where you are, how you want to express yourself, what self defeating tendencies and patterns you still have that you need to release. And then Jupiter, your chart ruler, is stationing retrograde on the 11th tomorrow. And then it's going to be retrograde until about March. So all of that is maybe a sign of a slower, it's like a slower period right now. It's funny because I've been getting the same type of insight for myself, like, "It's slow," and I'm like, "No, I still wanna go." Because Mars is in your 1st house, right? So, like, Mars being in the 1st, I think, is giving you right now this desire to, like, go for it and take action and take risks, but at the same time, it's like Mercury says, "Not yet." Mercury says you kinda have to you have other things that you need to do. Relationships, you're probably someone who's naturally attracted to foreign people, people of different culture who maybe look big and bold and bold, bold, like big and noticeable. Mm. I am getting a message about my internet not doing so well. So I just got to know my internet, I think, broke down for a second. So can you hear me? And Indy, if you are watching and if it's not lagging too badly, I'm curious if you noticed any relationship developments between July 7th and November 7th, because Uranus is about to spend the next 7 years in your house of relationships. And it has dipped its toes into your 7th house of relationships on July 7th, and it just left on November 7th. And Uranus in the 7th is all about doing things differently in your love life. And if that means you've been single most of your life and now suddenly you're going to get into a stable, committed relationship, then that's what it means. Or if you've been always in the committed relationships, Uranus comes into your 7th house and it might suggest that it could be about doing things, and like instead dating around. Okay, you're saying I started a relationship in June, but we broke up in September. Okay. So it's interesting, yeah, because Uranus is going to come back into your 7th house of relationships in late April 2026. And then it's going to stay there for like 7 years total. So I think there's a lot of relationship energy that's coming up. And you are 27, right? 27, 24, 5. And until your next birthday, you're in the 4th house year. And that can also suggest that, like, until your next birthday, there's a lot of focus on like home and family and your foundations. So yeah, I think home family, maybe even moving or like figuring out where you see yourself. I think the start of the year can be a little bit slow, or definitely the end of 2025 can be a little bit slow. I think there's a lot of focus with Pluto on your voice and maybe even connecting with your passions and interests. I think relationship sector is going to become more active in April and onwards. Saturn coming into your 5th house in February could be the one to watch for, because sometimes Saturn comes a dry spell, especially when it comes, or the opposite can be true where you try to do too much and you go on like 5 dates every day. So watch out. This So Saturn would have been here as well between late May and September. So that's like right around the time the relationship that you started was happening. Um, what was that relationship like? It's interesting because it's very much the period when Saturn went into your 5th house from late May until September 1st is when you were in this relationship. And it's interesting because Saturn is also gonna come back into your 5th house in February. So Saturn is coming back in February and Uranus is coming back in April. Oh, you're saying really fun, long distance, and intense. Sorry, Indy, you're asking me to repeat something. I'm not sure what exactly. And hopefully, you can watch the recording of this. And I think the recording should be better. I just don't know what exactly you asked me to repeat because I said so many things. But like this sort of what was happening this summer is the preview of what's gonna come back again in 2026. So if you're asking like what's ahead, more of that, more of potentially like fun, unique, different kinds of relationships. And it seems like there was both. There was fun of Uranus and then there was long distance. So did you actually see each other a lot in this period? Because Saturn can also suggest long distance. Uranus is like, here is this new thing, but then Saturn is like, yeah, but there are also some obstacles. So I'm going to start wrapping up soon. Unless there are people interested in getting a reading. This is the last call. Let me know. If you'd like a reading, I ask for a donation. Suggested amount is 25. Please send it through the links in the description and in the pinned comment. And then after you do, I would need your information, date, time, and place of birth, and your question. Otherwise, I will wrap up pretty soon. Indy says, yes, every month we would spend like 2 weeks together back and forth from the Bay to LA. That sounds so fun. It does sound like really cool. And sounds like you guys were making it work. Why did it end? What's interesting too is in June 30, Jupiter is going to go into your 9th house. And that can suggest a period of a lot of travel. And Jupiter will be conjoining your Mars, which rules your house of pleasure and fun and creativity and sex and children. And again, sort of your house of foreign lands, faraway places. Mercury, the ruler of your house of relationships, your Venus, which is connected to relationships. So I think there is a lot of possibilities for relationships next year. But Saturn in the 5th is just something like watch out that you don't go from 0 to 180 super fast. You're saying possibly financial strain, the distance, the vibes were off. The vibes, those vibes. So yeah, I think those are some of the main things that I'm seeing for you. If you want a full-sized reading, book it on my website. If Mercury candle could be really good for you because it falls in your 7th house of relationships. I have Mercury in Gemini. It's like very good for communication and the vibes when it comes to relationships. All of my products are currently 20% off with the coupon code EARLYBF20, early BF for Black Friday, but it's all lowercase. So you can check it out on my website, or you can also book a reading and we can like do a more fuller analysis by actually pulling up all of your transits and seeing in more depth what might be coming up. But I hope this was helpful and I hope this resonated. It's an interesting period this year because we sort of started in one place at the beginning of the year. And then we had all these changes of signs in the summer, all of this like, oh, something new is happening. This is where we are, new beginnings, exciting things. And now at the end of 2025, we're kind of backtracking to the beginning of the year. And things are slow and unsure and uncertain, kind of stagnant. And so we'll jump back forward again next year, starting February, March, April, things will begin picking back up again and kind of getting more interesting. Okay, last call, official last call. If anybody else would like a reading, please wave your hand, send a donation, and otherwise we will wrap up. Do take advantage of my sale. I don't do them very often. This applies to all products. Early BF20 is the code, and you can save 20% on my planner, on my candles. We have Venus in the sign of her detriment right now, so Venus candles are great. Moon candles are my favorite, always for emotional peace. Mercury candles are perfect for the retrograde. So check it out and pick it up if you'd like some. And I'm also teaching. I'm teaching. Let's not forget. I'm probably going to do like a free webinar to introduce the new course that begins in March. And then in March, I'm going to start teaching predictive astrology, talking about transits, solar returns, annual perfections, all the good things to forecast the future. So, if we do not have any other people interested in a reading, I will bid you guys adieu. I will thank you all for participating, for asking your questions, for being good sports, and dealing with some of the technical issues as we are in the Mercury retrograde and one cannot completely prevent it. Although I did not rub myself in a Mercury oil, probably could have. So if there are no volunteers, if nobody else would like a reading, I am going to wrap it up. But again, I don't know if it's super slow and glitchy or if you guys are just quietly being, maybe you're just sitting there quietly and being like, yeah, bye, bye. Okay. So last call. Last call. You can still jump on or not. Okay, maybe I'll give it another like 30 seconds and then I'll officially wrap it up because I do think there's been a lag and I don't want to disappear without saying goodbye. But okay. So much for saying that. Thank you again. Thank you for being here. Take advantage of the Black Friday sale. I posted a post today with the horoscopes. The information is there. Join my course, check out my website, book a reading, and thank you again to everyone. I will see you guys very, very soon. Okay. Bye.